My name is Vicky Ngamsha. I'm a motivational public speaker from very humble beginnings. I was born in West Africa, Cameroon, in a very tiny little village called Kian. And I moved out to the UK, lived with my family here, and then suddenly after my studies at the University of Wolverhampton, I became a motivational speaker. I speak about life, about what affects the community, and being motivational. All I do is try to take people from limiting beliefs to the side of life where they will appreciate what they have. So I talk across the world, and I go a lot to Africa, which is home to me. And I have a message for Africa, I have a message for the UK. And back in Africa is people stepping out of limiting themselves and working towards changing their lives for the better. And those who are living a good life in Africa to try and share what they've had or what they have with those struggling, so that the poor will not become more poorer and the rich become more richer. But instead we strike a balance. Today I'm going to talk to you about some steps to eradicate poverty in the community. What can we do? I know poverty is a disease. I was once a very poor person. I was born a very poor girl. I grew in poverty, and I fought my way out of this poverty. So I'm going to be looking at the possibilities of what we can do, how we can drive poverty. We fight poverty and we get rid of poverty. So we're looking at the steps, some steps on how to eradicate poverty within the community. And I'm going to highlight one here, which is hardworking. Because from my experience, I have worked extremely hard to stand where I am. I'm not saying I'm very rich. I'm still trying to fill my cup in order to fill the cup of the people who are poor, and in order to give my children and my family a fantastic life. But how can we do this? And I think when you work hard, you get it. I have had to work extremely hard coming from Africa, and also I also highlight jealousy. The more jealous you are, the more you're not going to make progress. That is my belief. So I'm highlighting the fact that people need to stop jealousy. People need to identify themselves with quality people. People need to remain more cheerful. I know these days when you walk down the road and you're cheerful, they're like, whoa, there's some unusual person down the road. Yeah, but you need to be happy. And that smile you give to somebody, the person might change your life. The scenario in which I grew up in Kian was born in this family where mom and daddy were really struggling. Dad could not face it. My daddy had a very, very soft heart and could not live to see this family struggling. My mother was a strong woman. She stood by us. Out of the 10 children in my family, 6 of us died, and 4 of us are living today with mom and dad gone, with our brothers and sisters. And all my brothers and sisters died, included twins. And when I talk of hard work, when I talk of not being jealous, when I talk of identifying yourself with quality people, people that will help you, I flash back to this example years back when I finished my primary education. All mom could offer me was a hoe, which is a piece of gardening tool. My brothers and sisters had gone. They did not even do their own education. They couldn't afford to. But I came at the last of the family, and I said, I got to do my primary education. But then, when mom bought me a gardening tool and gave me as my future, I cried. And I said, no, mom. I'm going to stop being jealous of those people riding in cars, those rich people within our community. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to start trekking tomorrow morning to some other neighboring cities or villages to see if I can talk to someone who will talk to someone who can get me to be educated. And I left Kian I trekked for miles to go to meet this rich lady who accepted to sponsor me in school. Although things didn't go well at some point, she at least got me out of my mother's house. And then when things went wrong, I landed in the hands of the Franciscan sisters, the tertiary Franciscan sisters of Chisong, a group of nuns that saw the need, that sympathized with me and picked me up, kept me in the dormitory with rich children, okay, with people who were well-to-do. So I was coming from my village where my future was a whole. Now, how many of us today do say no when a situation is placed in front of us? Because we need to keep thinking. We need to keep looking for ways to work hard. I had to work hard, and that trek wasn't easy for my age. I went through the valleys, through the hills, and I wanted to see this woman. And I also mentioned about not being jealous, because what kills us in the community today is people think, I'm not bothered. That person is very rich. I'm not going to talk to them because you're not going to talk to me, by the way. So it is about being realistic, being humble, being cheerful. I'm sure if I went to this lady and I was not cheerful enough or quite polite, she wouldn't have given me the opportunity. That's how I had my education. And I believe that there are some children today, as I speak, there are adults, there are women, there are children going through domestic violence, going through fighting poverty is killing them just because they cannot get up and say, yes, I haven't got it. Please, can you help me? In my neighborhood, I had people who were well-to-do. Sometimes I went to play with them, and some of my friends of the poor category of people, like you always have them in any city or villages, they will always say to me, oh, Vicky, don't go to that people's house because they won't let you. And when I did, they actually let me in. Some didn't, but they didn't bite me at least. So I think that to eradicate poverty, we need to constantly work hard. We need to constantly stay off jealousy, identify ourselves with quality people, and we need to avoid using others, trying to break others down in order to make money. We need to forgive and grow. We need to love genuinely and respect people. We need to sometimes let people treat us badly and get away with it. Because if you look at people with deep love and understanding that no one is perfect, everyone is entitled to make mistakes, then you will not be able to judge people, because prejudice is another problem we have in the universe today. And I think the amount of poverty that is not only in Africa, it's everywhere in the world, which I'm passionate about. And I'm very determined to eradicate this poverty. And I believe that if you and I work together, we will get rid of this terrible, terrible disease. It is not pleasant to be poor. If we look at people positively, if we try to forgive them, if we try to move on, when somebody does something to you, forgive, forget, and grow. Because the moment you do not forget, the moment you don't want to grow, the moment you stay and you keep working out a way to revenge, you are keeping yourself out of successes. You are staying back from making progress in your life. The moment you're not sharing. And I remember a very practical incident that happened to me within the UK. I think that was about 2011-12. I drove from somewhere in town with a friend. We were in my car. And when I was driving, somebody hit my car from the back. And normally, with the law, with everything, I could turn back and get that person to pay, because the fault, hitting someone from the back, is the other person's fault. It wasn't mine. But I came out and I went to this guy and I said, "Are you okay?" And he looked at me. He expected me to start shouting. He expected me to start saying, "Now, come on, what's your details? Let's exchange your insurance." And then what? Yeah, that guy was going to pay for my car. He was going, I don't even know where he was going. So sometimes to eradicate poverty, sometimes to change our life, you got to be, and you have to do the things, do certain things that are somehow unusual from the normal things that people do within the community. This person looked at me, and the guy who was with me in the car kept staring at me. And the people around, because it was somewhere where there was people fixing tires or whatever, they were looking at me, and I said, are you okay? And I gave this guy a handshake, and I said, be careful, off you go. He sat in his car staring at me, and I drove off. Yeah, a scratch in my car. But how long would that have taken me? So I think that little things, let people, I mean, I'm not saying if people commit crime, they shouldn't be corrected, or I'm just saying that certain things that you overlook them and just let go, let life be, because believe me, people will make mistakes. They've made mistakes. I have been hurt. I have had people really step on my toe. And I think one of the things that we need to do in order to eradicate poverty from our land is to let people be the way they are. Sometimes we discourage people from making a move. Sometimes we just develop that attitude which isn't encouraging for the others. And I am looking at this particular massive, huge topic that could take us a whole day or 2 days to talk about forgiveness. I was once hurt by somebody. The person that actually walked in our home and abused me and my sister. I was very little. I carried this man in my heart for years and years and years, and I kept saying he was a bad man. He did this to us. At some point I said to myself, how long will I live with this man in my memory? And by the way, I have had so many blessings that I was carrying this man. It was weighing on me that I couldn't really celebrate my blessings. And the moment I let go, I just let go. I forgive him. And I forgive everybody. Then I feel the inner joy in me. So I think that sometimes we are blocked from having our successes. We're blocked from helping the community, from sharing in the community, because somebody took somebody's pot of oil or whatever. And typically in Africa, or you borrowed some maize meal from me and you did not give it last week, so I can't talk to you. And maybe the next day that person had something that could have helped you. So I personally do really beg and call on the people in the world, because to become more motivational, more happier and cheerful, we have a community where everyone is happy. Forgive, let go, let it go, just move on and grow. And then the aspect of love, unity, living in that spirit of togetherness, eradicating this tribalism, egoism. People just think me, me, me. And when I got up with the idea to set up a public library for Africa, and I was working night and day. I was picking books from this location in the UK, packing them in boxes and getting things ready, and all excited because I grew up in this village of Kian. Kian is not far from Kikaikelaki. And I know what it feels like to sit in a classroom without a pen or pencil and its exercise book and then a textbook. And I remember when I used to go to school without textbooks, and teachers used to beat my hands and send me back home to my parents to buy my books. Now when I got up and I was really enthusiastic, I want to get a library for my people. Well, oh whoa, I had some people who sit back and they're going like, what does she think she's trying to do? She's not going to do it. This is all noise she's making. And I think that is where we get on with all this egoism. You're thinking about you. You want to be the one. You want to do this. It isn't to do with anything, any self-glorification, okay? But if I were to get myself loaded and sit on my money without looking next door, without even bothering about what any person is thinking, that is another story, Okay? But I just, you know what? I'm so proud of myself. I love myself because I can't even. I just love to give. I wish I had more, and I know I will have more. So the idea is for people to understand people, love people, work together, and how many of us live in the world today with not just that much to give or to share, and are still willing to share the little that we have. And you know what? The more you give, the more you receive. If I close my hands with all I've got, nothing is going to go out, but nothing is going to come in either. And I strongly believe in that. But poverty is killing as we speak. Some people are dying. There's a kid somewhere, and I've seen it with my eyes. And it's a terrible thing. It's taking away the lives of our children from education. They can't even afford to because they got to buy all these things, they got to pay. And even within the UK, okay, they might not have difficulties with education because my children go to school. They've got a better style of life. But I believe that at the end of the day, they still need that moral sustainability. And to be morally broke, to be out of, you know, to be just out of any respect for anything and going drugging and gangs and killing and so on. It is still poverty in a sense. So poverty to me is not necessarily material, but how do we fit in that time? How do we look? How do we try to concentrate to build on this unity? A child that is probably going through a difficult time in school is probably being bullied. A child that is acting so funny at home is probably going through all sorts of difficulties in their own lives. But then, where is the love for our children? Where is the unity? Where is that spirit of forgiveness? Where is that spirit of oneness? And then I have this type of life where people say, you know, Vicky, she can just talk. Yes, I just talk. I love talking. I talk to people I don't know. And you know what? It's helped me. That's probably why I've come out of where I was, because I talk. And I tell you a funny story. For those outside of Cameroon, you might not understand the range or the quality of the person I'm going to tell you about. But I'm going to try and explain within the government setting. I went into Cameroon, and I was standing somewhere and talking to my daughter and my husband. And a man came, drove the car, parked it. Another car came. It was a little bit dark. And I said, and then the man came out and was looking and looking. And I said to my husband and my daughter, I said, I'm going to go talk to that man. And my daughter went, I beg, Mommy, you can't just go. You can't go talking to people. Do you know that man? I said, no, I don't need to know the man. So I went over to this man and I said, hi, my name is Vicky Ngamsha, as I always do. Hi, my name is Vicky Ngamsha. And this man said, hiya, good to meet you. I'm the governor of the Northwest province of Bamenda. This was a top government official person. And I said, hi, Your Excellency, how great to meet you. So you never know who you talk to. You never know who you're meeting. You never know if you talk to people. And that is how I got my education. Okay? Some days, I had the opportunity to talk to the governor. If the governor was coming somewhere, I'll probably be in the crowd. I wouldn't even have to get a handshake. So there you go. And I'm not just saying governor. Children cry today, oh, we haven't got means to go to school in Africa. We can't, because they can't afford even to approach. The person can only look at you. They will not bite you. So if you see anybody walking past, go to them, say hello. Try and bring a conversation and talk to people. And either way, it does help. So it is really important to stay positive at all times. Because when you are negatively driven, you cannot make that change within the community and within yourself. Because sometimes we have that inner negative conversation that is telling us, go back and give it, go and do this, go and get that man. Revenge is a terrible thing in the community today. And then we have also difficulties in accepting who we are. Because Sometimes I look at myself within the UK and I listen to some people who go, yeah, I came from Africa, but I was actually from a very well-to-do family. My parents weren't that poor, and I was in the city of that and that. What sense does that make? I can't change me. You cannot change you. You have to be you in order to be realistic. You have to be you in order to make that change in the community. You can only be you in order to help others. Because if I set very high standard of, yeah, I was this, I was that, how do I go back to my roots? And that's why I go back to my roots, which were very, very poor. I call it my humble beginnings. And I wrote a book that is coming up soon on my humble beginnings. And I'm very proud of it. Look at me, I've done it. So I'm not going to stand here and lie you I came from Yaoundé in Cameroon before, because I didn't anyway. But how many of us even try to change our accent? Oh, I've been in the Britain, so I've got to talk, and then you get somebody coming from Italy trying to rap like an American. What sense does that make? So another thing, another aspect of eradicating poverty, because it is about getting into people, opening yourself, being natural, being realistic, accepting what you've done, because it is those challenges that push you, it is those challenges that move you to actually helping, that move you to actually touching the hearts of others. I once met somebody who was with me in school, and he went like, oh my God, is that you, Vicky? You were only very, very poor. You had one pair of shoes. I said, yes, I remember. But look at me. How many have I got? And it's not to impress. It's not to show off. Yes, I've done it. That's not what I'm doing here this morning. All I'm doing today is trying to get you to accept the reality of who you are. And by accepting that reality of who you are, you will stay positive. Don't look at it negatively. Don't think, why did they do this to me? Because if I looked at it that way, I probably wouldn't talk to the person that tried to send my mom or that pushed my mom in a grave alive. Okay? Because my mother, whom I'm running this project, Mama Vela project in Africa, and I keep Vela, which is my mother's name. My mother, who was seen in the community, this same community I go to, is my home. I love them. They are my people. Everyone makes mistakes. That generation was then. And it's lack of education. That generation was gone, or even if still there, I'm not interested. All I'm interested is, how can our children get educated? How can we change things for our community? But in 1980, the challenge was that which Rosa Vela my mother, was seen as a woman that killed her child, my little sister, Gisela, whom I watched in our little home of Kian, dying in my mama's hand, because this girl was suffering from malnutrition. Mama gave us cassava and maize and all the starchy food. We didn't have good meals. We used to go to the market and probably get some bones to get the bone marrow to eat. Yes, it's me. That's my story. And when Mama could not afford to raise this last child with the poor situation she was in, Gisela died. That's my little sister. And when Gisela died, I saw this child dying in Mama's hand. I saw her pass away. I was just 4, 5 years, 6 years. And I'm watching this child. And the trauma was, immediately the child died, there was this man next door who was able to make his own statement and announce to the entire neighborhood that my mother had given my child into witches in order to exchange with locusts, insects that will come and eat people's crops. What sense does that make? Because I don't get it. I've lived with this for years and years. And I went back when I was like 17, 18 to Mama, because I had to ask my mom again to tell me the story of the locust whole thing. We were marginalized. How then can we combat poverty if we're going to marginalize people, if we're going to label people? We were marginalized in the whole entire neighborhood, and people didn't talk to us because my mom was a witch. Because my mother, as poor as she was. I remember her coming from her little farm and sending us with vegetables to go around the neighborhood and give to people. How bad was that woman? But how could I have forgiven that person that lowered my mom in a grave alive? Oh yeah, I have. Because life is full of challenges. If you can imagine now something that terrible that happened to you and you're carrying that person with you today, please, if my example can help you to do just that, forgive it, let it be, remain bubbly. Look at me, I am as bubbly as anything. My mom suffered what she did, and that's why today her name Vela will live forever so long as I live, okay? She was sent in a grave alive. Thank goodness the good people pulled her out. She got back home and cried her eyes out. As young as I was, I knew exactly how to comfort a mother who the husband had left because couldn't live with the poverty. All my other sisters were not home. How did I do that? And that make Vicky Ngamsha who she is today. Because time and again people ask, why are you the way you are? I don't really get it. I don't see it anymore. Because at the end of the day, if you don't forgive, if you don't move on, if you don't live a life, you're going to stay on. And you have to touch people's life. And the moment you forgive, the moment you accept who you are, the moment you work hard, the moment you stop jealousy, and the moment, if you are well-to-do, you try to share with those who don't have, the moment we change this world and everyone will be happy. Everyone is going to be happy. And I remember an incident where I came back one afternoon when I was studying in the University of Wolverhampton, and I faced one of the biggest challenges in my life. While coming all the way from Africa, settling here, getting married to one of the most amazing men, and living a good life, buying my own home, getting my kids, being blessed with them, and then walk home one day and found that the house was burned down into ashes. Somebody would think that would have been the end of Vicky Ngamsha. It wasn't. Yes, I cried. I saw my life investment, my property, everything gone into flames. I stood there with children on the street and my husband, and all we had was my bag from uni with my books, my kids from school, my husband with the work bag, and that was our entire everything that we could live for. But then, when I stood there, something that came to me, talking about fighting poverty, being in the community, and creating that impact. Within a couple of hours, phone calls were made within the UK and America and all over, and people came over and were there for us. So whatever you do in life, do not step on toes. Remember that people will hurt you, but if you can minimize how much you hurt people and keep that positive atmosphere within you and your people, forgive them, move on, live in that community. It is really important. And if at some point you feel that it's pushing you too hard, step back, regenerate, build up your strength, and live with people, because it was important in that year, 2011 September, when my house went. I saw the goodness in people. And I saw the goodness in me, because if I had not faced challenges, well, people said, Vicky, you got to defer your course. You can't do it. You were doing my final year dissertation and all whatnot. And they said, Vicky, you can't do it. In history, nobody can do it. But I did it. I went back to uni. I sat in class and constantly I had to carry on with my studies. And I passed. I did it. So you can do it. So to me, based on my personal experience, anyone can do it. So it might be healthier to stop mourning and complaining and saying, I'm of this, I was poor, I was rich. Because the moment you put your hard work, the moment you talk to people, the moment you fight your way out of it, you will. And I have analyzed certain steps that we can take. And I can remember that if I took a gardening tool, that little hoe from my mother in my little village of Kian and went to the farm, I would not be here today. Maybe I will be the fifth or second, third wife of somebody. Maybe I will have, I don't know. So I call on children, young people within the UK, make good use of the opportunities that are there for you because you are highly favored to be where you are. Stop mourning about gadgets. Stop complaining about the government. Maybe stop complaining about not having the latest technology in town in your household because you are blessed. At least you've got books, at least you've got education up to university where you start taking loans if your parents didn't make it to pay for your education. But even with that, you've still got a loan to take and go through university and pay a tiny bit at a time. And back in my Africa, I'll call on the young people and the children, never give up, okay? Never give up. I'm a true testimony. I did not give up. Sometimes I was loitering around the rich people's house, and sometimes they let me in, sometimes they didn't. But I'm here today to tell you that it is possible. I'm here to tell you not to give up. Try. Leave your home. Don't take that gardening tool from mama. Tell mama and daddy you can do it. Get on to the government office. Talk to them. Stand on the road and stop somebody who you see is well-to-do and is driving a car. Ask them for help. They will hear you out. And at least if they don't, they won't bite you. Okay? So I expect the people from the developing world to keep trying. And then I call on the very rich people because Africa isn't that poor and poor. I know people in Africa that live in money. If we can develop that spirit of sharing, that oneness, okay, just give. And not just in Africa, even us who are out here now like me, if you make it a duty, a little percentage to take back home. And sometimes take it yourself. You might think it's just a little drop in an ocean, but it does make a huge change in a child's life. So it's sharing, it's loving, it's understanding, it's hard work, it's forgiveness, it's staying positive, it's talking. Just say it. And I know that some girls, some young people, some women, some men even suffer like domestic violence in silence because you haven't spoken to somebody. You're not going to die in silence. And when one of the most horrible things happened to me and my sister, it had to be Vicky to talk, and my mom got me to talk. And I spoke, and we were rushed to hospital. So I believe that as I speak today, a child is going through what I went through. Okay? But please, talk. Speak out. If you have no phone, try your best. Because we can change the world. Poverty is a disease. I hate poverty, okay? And if I could do anything within my means, I would kick it. I will slaughter it. I will shoot it with a gun. I will do everything. Please join me. I want to end by calling on everyone listening to this to stay positive, to remain awake. Don't go to sleep. Poverty is a disease, but together we can eradicate this poverty. Why don't you join me with all the positive aspects, with all these things we've explored today? Why don't you join me and we do this better fight to eradicate poverty in our community? Poverty isn't good. And until we get rid of it, we cannot get that happiness. We can't live like one community. So let us journey together. Let us work together towards the path of eradicating this horrible disease.